welcome to the It's All About Missions video. And we're coming to you again with another devotion, missions devotion here in Romans 1. Actually, we're going to be in Romans 1 verse 1. And the verse says this, Romans 1 verse 1 says, Paul, a servant of Jesus Christ, called to be an apostle, separated unto the gospel of God. I love that phrase. I love that verse there. Separated into the gospel. The mindset is that Paul says this, look, I have separated my life to get the gospel all around the world. I have separated my life to live unto the gospel and live of the gospel, that I may make Christ known throughout the whole earth. That is what Paul's heart and mindset was, that he was living his life completely dedicated to seeing people reach the gospel, to doing everything he could to see the world reach, the world impacted with the message of salvation, that Jesus is the way, the truth, and the life. What about you? Maybe we can make that same commitment. You know, I want to make that commitment. That I want to live my life separated in the gospel. That I want to live my life, that I can do everything I can to make Christ known amongst all nations. That I can do everything I can to preach Christ wherever I'm at. That my life is separated to the gospel. That means I'm doing everything I can to see the gospel preached wherever I go. That people I meet know that I'm a Christian, know that I'm saved, and they hear the message of salvation. And I want to challenge you to make that your life goal. That it be said of you, separated unto the gospel. Because I believe Paul, if you look at the life of Paul, you can say that was a man separated in the gospel. That Paul's life was summed up in that phrase, separated in the gospel. That's how he lived. If we as Christians, we should have that same heart, that same mindset. That we want people to look at us and say, you know what? That young man, that young lady, they lived their life separated unto the gospel. They lived their life trying to preach the gospel and get the gospel and to reach the world with the gospel. You know, if we live that life separated in the gospel, it starts in our local area. It starts with where you're at right now. And you may be a young person, maybe a teenager, you may be an adult, and you say, well, I just can't go right now. Okay, well, start where you're at living separate in the gospel. Meaning that everywhere you go, you're trying to hand out tracts, you're trying to invite people to church, you're trying to share the gospel, you're trying to give your testimony to people. But you know, as you live separate in the gospel, God will begin to work in your heart. You'll begin to see the need around the world. You begin to see that there is a need for people to give their lives and to go take the message of salvation from where they are all across the world to people who have never heard. And I want to challenge you to consider giving your life to be separate in the gospel, meaning that I'm going to give my life to be a missionary. I'm going to give my life to missions. I'm going to give my life to take the gospel to any country that God will allow me to go to, and to take the gospel to people who've never heard. We have such a great need for people to live separate in the gospel. And if you live your life separate in the gospel, I believe God will work in your heart for missions, because the heartbeat of God is that the world would be saved, and that should be our heartbeat as Christians. As we begin living separate in the gospel, as we living of the gospel and trying to preach the gospel, we will begin to realize that, look, there's a need in our area, but there's an even greater need in countries all around the world like India, like China, Turkey. You've got all the Middle East, you've got Africa, you've got Asia and parts of Europe, and many people who have never heard or are living a lie, because they don't know the truth of the gospel. They just know what their parents have told them. And many people live trying to please their God or gods. They try to do all of these things. They try to do these sacrifices, do everything they can. But we as Christians, if we would live separate in the gospel, we get the mindset and heartbeat and say, look, I'm living separate in the gospel. That means I'm going to leave my comfort zone. I'm going to leave what's comfortable to me, and I'm going to take the gospel, and I'm going to go across seas, and I may end up in danger, may end up in hard spots, but you know what? I am called to live separate in the gospel. I'm living my life to make Christ known to people who've never heard him. I'm going to challenge us. Let it be a testimony of us, like it was Paul, separate in the gospel. Let it be said, whatever your name is, that you're living your life separated under the gospel. And by living separated under the gospel, we can see this world reached in this generation. Thank you for joining us on It's All About Missions. And if we'd like for you to go and to like the video you just watched, but also if you could do us a favor and subscribe to our channel, this will help you know when we post new videos and new things and new content here that you can follow and you can watch. One other thing to note here, as you can see, we've got the opportunity for you to go back and watch previous Country of the Week, Country Spotlights here. You can go watch those. Or down here, you can watch our most recent missions video, missions updates videos, and go to those. But thank you again for joining us. And please invite your friends to come and to watch these videos, and let's see the world reached with the gospel in this generation.